Tom from Ninja Money Crochet. Today I have for us to do this cute little Christmas stocking. It's made mostly with half double crochet, and we're going to make this applique of the holly to put on the front of it. So let's bring the camera in so you can see the holly. It's really cute, really simple to make. So let's swing the camera around and we'll talk about the yarn that you need and the hooks and everything to make this really cute stocking. So the first color I used was Red Heart Super Saver. This is the actual skein I used to make the yarn, to make the stocking. This color is called Aran. I used most of the skein for the stocking. You're going to use approximately 5.5 ounces of yarn, so all together with all three colors you're going to use about almost a full skein of yarn. So this is a medium 4 acrylic yarn. You do not have to use Red Heart Super Saver. You can use any medium 4 yarn that you wish to use. This color is called Aran. This next color I used, again, is a Red Heart Super Saver, and it's called Light Sage. And the burgundy color I used is actually Studio Classic by Nicole, but it is a medium 4 worsted weight yarn. It is a 100% acrylic, and this color is Deep Wine. Again, you don't have to use these particular brands of yarn. You can use any medium 4 yarn that you choose. The hooks that I used to make this stocking is an 5.5 millimeter hook. That's mostly for the body of the stocking, and for the heel and the toe I use an H 5.0 millimeter hook. For the holly leaves and berries I used an F 3.75 millimeter hook. You're also going to want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle to weave in your ends, and you might want to have some stitch markers on hand while you're working this project. So once you have all your supplies together, let's get started. To start the stocking, I'm going to start with the Light Sage color and the I 5.5 millimeter hook. We're going to start with a chain of 48. Once you have your chain of 48, I'll meet back up with you. Now that we have our chain of 48, go down your chain, and we're going to slip stitch into the first chain. Be careful not to twist your chain, and slip stitch to form a ring. To start round 1, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. And we're going to half double crochet into each stitch around. So place 1 half double crochet into each stitch around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 1. We now have 48 half double crochet. If for some reason you're having trouble finding that first stitch that we're going to join to, you can always mark that first stitch with a stitch marker when you begin your rounds. We're going to slip stitch to that first stitch that we made, but we're going to change colors. So we're going to go ahead and start that slip stitch, and instead of pulling in our sage, we're going to drop our sage color, and we're going to pick up our Aran color and pull through and through. And what I like to do is take my ends and tie them off together. I already clipped off my sage. I'm going to tie those ends together just because I like to keep my ends nice and secure. You can always untie them afterwards when you weave them in. Now you can work over these ends around your next row, or you can go ahead and push them to the back and weave them in afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and weave them in afterwards. So to start round 2, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do a half double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. And we're going to go ahead and mark that stitch, just to make it easier to find on the way back around. And place 1 single crochet, half double crochet into each stitch around. We're working half doubles. So just 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And I will meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 2. We still have 48 stitches. We're going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker, and we're going to slip stitch to that first stitch that we made, and we're going to be changing colors again. So we're going to drop our Aran, and we're going to pick up our wine color or burgundy color and pull through and through. Again, we're going to go ahead and tie off these ends. I've already woven in the other ends just so that it doesn't have all these tails hanging about while I'm trying to show you how to make this project. So we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just made, or just slip stitched into. We're going to go ahead and mark that first stitch again. And just like our previous rounds, 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. Continue working half double crochet all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 3. We still have 48 stitches. We're going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker, and we're going to slip stitch into that first half double crochet that we made, and we're going to be changing colors again. We're going to change back to the light sage color. So we're going to drop our wine color and pull up our sage. Again, I'm going to go ahead and tie these ends off. Now to start round 4, we're going to chain 1. And just like before, half double crochet back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. And get these tails out of the way. And mark that stitch. We're going to be changing colors one more time before we start the main part of the body. We're going to go back to our Aran color. So for this round, 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. I will meet back up with you at the end of this round. We're at the end of round 4. We still have 48 stitches, and we're going to take out our stitch marker, slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made, and we're going to change colors back to our Aran color. And we're going to stay with the Aran color for several rows now. Go ahead and tie these off. We're going to be working with our Aran color from row 5 to row 20. So chain 1, and we're going to work the exact same way that we're working these past 4 rows. We're going to do with Aran now without changing colors. So half double crochet in the same stitch that we just slip stitched into, and 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. Your stitch count will remain the same, and you'll just keep going around, slip stitching at the end of each round for rounds number 5 through 20. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 20. Oops, don't forget to mark that first stitch with your stitch marker. I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 20. Okay, now we're at the end of row 20. We're going to go ahead and take our stitch marker out and slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. We're going to be changing to our light sage color. Again, tying off our ends. We're going to be working on those stripes. So we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet right back into the same stitch that we just slip stitched into, and marking that first stitch of the round, and half double crocheting in each stitch around. Our stitch count still remains at 48. So continue with 1 half double crochet in each stitch around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of row 21. We still have 48 stitches. We're going to slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. We're going to drop our light sage, and we're going to bring up our Aran color. Again, let's tie our ends together. Chain 1 and half double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. Mark that as our first stitch, and half double crochet into each stitch around. I will meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 22. We still have 48 stitches. We're going to take our stitch marker out and slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made, dropping our Aran color and picking up our wine color. And we're going to go ahead and tie these two together. To start round 23, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. Mark that as our first stitch, and half double crochet into each stitch around. There we go. Continue working half double crochet all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. At the end of round 23, we still have 48 stitches. We're going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker, and we're going to slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made right there. We're going to drop our wine color and pull up our sage, our light sage. Pull through and through, and tie off our ends. Now we're ready to go and do our chain 1 to start off round 24. We're going to half double crochet into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. Mark our first stitch and half double crochet into each stitch around. Please continue working half double crochet all the way around. You get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 24. We still have 48 stitches. We're going to go ahead and take that stitch marker out and slip stitch into that first half double crochet that we made. We're going to go ahead and drop our sage and pull up our Aran color and tie them off like we've done in the past. And now for round 25, we're going to be making that heel opening. So we're going to have to do something a little bit different. We're going to start off with a chain of 25. 1, 2, 3, 23, 24, 25. Now that we have our chain of 25, we're going to skip 23 stitches along our stocking. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 22, 23. Now that we're at 23, we're going to take that we're going to go into the 24th stitch with a half double crochet. Now your chain might twist a little bit, so you're going to have to hold the chain down. Just like that. Well, my yarn split. That first stitch is always the hardest one there. Now continue with half double crochets for the next 23 stitches. So you're going to have a total of 24 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 23, and 24. And how we're going to join this round, tuck those tails down in there, is we're going to go to the second chain that we made. So 1, 2, we're going to join to that second chain. So those first 2 chains are going to actually count as a half double crochet. So just like that. So in this round, you're going to have 25 half double crochets and 23 chains. To start round 26, we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet back into that same stitch we just slip stitched into, and we're going to mark that as our first stitch. And half double crochet into each one of the chains and each stitch all the way around. I will meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 26. We have 48 half double crochets. I'm going to take out our stitch marker and slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. To start round 27, we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. Mark our first stitch and half double crochet into each stitch around. And we're going to do this for round 27 through 33. It's going to be exactly the same. We're going to just continue with 1 half double crochet into each stitch and slip stitching to join. You should have 48 stitches in each round. I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 33. I'm at the end of row 33. We still have 48 stitches, and we're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet that, first half double crochet that we made. And we're going to change colors again. We're going to go to our wine color. And I didn't snip this off yet. There we go. And we're just going to tie these ends together. And before we continue on to our toe, we're going to change hooks. So we're just going to pull our 5.5 millimeter our eye hook out, and we are going to put our 5.0 or H hook in. So chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into, and half double crochet into the next stitch. Then into the next stitch we're going to do a half double crochet 2 together. How we do that is we yarn over, insert into that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops on the hook. So that the 2 stitches became 1. Then half double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, then we're going to half double crochet 2 together. So yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all loops on the hook. We're going to continue with that repeat all the way around. So it's half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, then half double crochet 2 together. And just continue that repeat all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I made it all the way back around. We now have 36 stitches. And we're going to slip stitch into that first half double crochet that we made. To start round 35, I'm going to chain up 1 and half double crochet into that stitch that we just slip stitched into. And we're going to go ahead and mark that stitch. And then we're going to half double crochet 2 together in the next stitch. So yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and draw through all loops on the hook. Half double crochet into the next stitch, and half double crochet 2 into the next. Half double crochet into the next stitch, then half double crochet 2 together into the next. And we're going to repeat that all the way around till we get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 35. We have 24 stitches. We're going to slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. To start round 36, we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. And we're going to be repeating the same pattern as we did in round 35. So we're going to half double crochet 2 together next. Then half double crochet in the next stitch. Half double crochet 2 together next. And half double crochet in the next stitch. So please repeat this pattern all the way around to get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. Okay, I'm at the end of round 36. We have 16 stitches. We're going to slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. This will be our last round. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do a half double crochet 2 together, starting with the same stitch that we just slip stitched into. So pull up a loop, go to the next stitch, and pull up a loop. So that is our first stitch. So we're going to go ahead and mark that stitch. And you're going to continue half double crocheting 2 together all the way around. Should leave you 8 stitches. That's 2, 7, and here's our last 2. Make 8, and we're just going to slip stitch to join and then fasten off. We're going to leave a nice long tail here so we can sew the toe closed. So here is our 8 stitches right here. And we're just going to grab our yarn needle . Just go in and out of those stitches. And just sew that toe closed. Now I like to put a couple of stitches going across for stay stitches to make sure this toe stays closed. And go down through the middle, and you can tie it off on the inside, which I will do later. So that closes off your toe. We're ready to work the heel portion of the stocking. We're going to be using our H 5.0 millimeter hook and our wine color yarn. We're going to be working in the unworked stitches of round 24 and the free loops of round 25. So go ahead and attach your yarn with a slip stitch. Chain one and place a half double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. We're going to work 1 half double crochet in each one of these unworked stitches and in each one of these free loops. We're also going to be working 2 stitches into the corners. You should have a total of 52 stitches when it's all said and done around the heel opening. This is the foundation row, so this does not count as row 1 or round 1. If you want, you can go ahead and mark that first stitch that you made. And continue working your half double crochets around that heel opening. I will meet back up with you at the end of this round. Okay, I made it all the way back around on our foundation row. We have 52 stitches. Take our stitch marker out and slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. To start round 1, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to half double crochet 2 together, and we're going to do that 2 times. So yarn over, and we're going to go back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into, yarn over, and go into the next stitch, and yarn over and pull through all loops on our hook. And we can go ahead and mark that stitch. And we're going to do that one more time. Go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops on the hook. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next 16 stitches. So 1, make sure you get both loops, 2, 3, 4, 15, and 16. Oh, sorry, I gotta manipulate the work here so you can see what I'm doing. Now we're going to half double crochet 2 together 5 times. So yarn over, so 1, it's 1, 2, and 5. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next 16 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 15, and 16. Now we're going to half double crochet 2 together 3 times. 1, 2, and the last 2 stitches will be the third time to end the row. And that is the end of round 1. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. We now have 44 stitches in our heel. We're going to start round 2 by chaining 1, and we're going to half double crochet 2 together 2 times again, starting in that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. And that's going to be our first stitch. So we're going to go ahead and mark that. We're going to repeat that one more time. And we're going to half double crochet in the next 11 stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, 10, and 11. We're going to half double crochet 2 together 5 times, just like we did in our previous row. That's 1, 2, and 5. We're going to half double crochet in the next 11 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, and 11. And then we're going to half double crochet 3, half double crochet 2 together 3 times. One, 2, and here's our last 2 stitches. 3. And we're going to slip stitch to join. So we're going to take out that stitch marker and slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. We now have 32 stitches. We have one more round to do. So we're going to start that round 3 with a chain 1. And you guessed it, we're going to do a half double 2 together, starting with that first stitch that we just slip stitched into. I'm going to mark that stitch as our first round, as our first stitch, sorry. I'm going to do that half double crochet 2 together one more time. We're going to half double crochet in the next 6 stitches. 2, 3, 5, and 6. I'm going to half double crochet 2 together 5 times. 1, 2, 4, and 5. Half double crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, and half double crochet 2 together 3 times. 1, 2, and then the last 2 stitches. Is 3. And we're going to slip stitch to join. We're going to fasten off, and we're going to leave a nice long tail to sew closed our heel. Just back the camera out here. So just take your stocking and line the 2 sides that are open. Just line them up like this. And then you're just going to thread up your yarn needle and whip stitch the sides. Whip stitch the opening closed. You don't want to do it too tight because it'll pucker your stocking. So just run it through and just kind of whip stitch it closed. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super tight. Got this one last stitch here. And then you can just bring your yarn to the inside to tie it off. It'll be all nice and closed. And you just tie it off on the inside and weave in your end. Before we move on to the holly, we're going to finish off the top of the stocking. So let's get our 5.5 millimeter or our eye hook and our light sage yarn. We're going to start with right where our seam is. So we're going to go ahead and attach our yarn with the slip stitch. Chain 1. And right in that same stitch that we just slip stitched into, we're going to go ahead and put a single crochet. And put 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around your stocking to just finish off the top of the stocking so it looks nice. We'll have a nice finished edge on the top of the stocking. So continue putting one single crochet into each stitch into those free loops of round 1 all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I made it all the way back around, and we're just going to pull up our hook out like that and thread up our yarn needle, and let me bring our camera down here so you can see how I'm going to finish this off. We're going to go not to this first stitch, we're going to go into the second stitch, bring our hook through and through, back into that same stitch so it looks like just like another stitch, and then you go ahead and weave it in to secure it. You don't want to pull too tight because you don't want to pucker it up, but you're going to want to go back and forth a couple of different directions to make sure it's in there securely, since this is your finish. Grabbing some different fibers each time you go back and forth. And you can go ahead and snip that off. And you have a nice finished top. So now let's go on to making our holly, and we're almost done. To start the holly, we're going to start with the leaves. We're going to use our sage color, our F hook 3.75 millimeter, and we're going to start with a chain of 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 14, 15, and 16. Now that we have our chain of 16, we're going to start second chain from hook. The loop on our hook right here does not count as a stitch, so we're going to go 1, 2, and start in that second chain with a single crochet. The next stitch will be a half double crochet. The next stitch is a double crochet, and in the next stitch we're going to place 3 treble crochets. So we're going to yarn over twice, insert into that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. That is a treble crochet. I'm going to yarn over again twice, insert back into the same stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Our next stitch will be a double crochet, then the next stitch is a half double crochet, and the next stitch is a single crochet. And don't worry if your leaf is starting to curl up. That's okay. When we get all our stitches on, it'll straighten back out. We're going to repeat that pattern one more time. So we're going to go with a single crochet to start with, a half double crochet, a double crochet, three treble crochets in the next stitch, a double crochet in the next, half double in the next. Oops. Like I said, don't worry about that curling up. Single crochet in the next. Should have one stitch left, and in that stitch we're going to put 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to flip our work over and we're going to work in the free loops or the opposite side of the chain into these loops right here. We're going to be working the same stitch pattern. So we're going to start with a single crochet, a half double crochet, double crochet, three treble crochets into the next stitch, double crochet into the next, half double into the next, and a single crochet into the next. So we're going to repeat that one more time. Start with a single crochet, half double crochet, a double crochet, and a treble, and 3 treble crochets into the next stitch, oops, got to yarn over twice, double crochet into the next, half double into the next, and a single in the last. Right there, it was a little difficult to get into that one. Then we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch that we made, and fasten off with a long tail there for sewing. Now you need to repeat this one more time to make another leaf so that you have 2 leaves, 2 holly leaves. To work the berries, we're going to be using again the F 3.75 millimeter hook, and we're going to be using the wine color yarn. Now, I do this with the magic ring technique. If you do not like the magic ring, or it's just not, you're not familiar with it, you can use a chain of 2 and put your first round all into the second chain from hook. If you'd like to use the magic ring, how I do mine is I place my yarn over my first 2 fingers, lock it down with my thumb, wrap it around, to form an X. Place my hook under the bottom yarn, grab the top, pull it through, twist, grab that yarn, that working yarn, and make a chain stitch. And that's how I form my magic ring. So we're going to place 8 single crochets into the ring. It's 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8. Once we have all 8, pull that tail to close it up. We're going to slip stitch to the first single that we made. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to go ahead and catch that first stitch and slip stitch to it. Chain 1, and we're going to place 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So go right back into that same stitch that you just slip stitched into. It's going to be tight because we're using a small hook. So 1, 2, and 1, 2, and then 1, 2. Just 2 single crochets all the way around. You'll have 16 single crochets at the end of the round. I'll meet back up with you at the end of this round. I'm at the end of the round 2, and we have 16 single crochets. We're just going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first single crochet that we made and fasten right off, leaving a tail to sew. Now if you've done the magic ring technique, or if you've done your chain 2, you're going to want to pull that tail again, grab up your yarn needle, and sew across that opening just to make sure it doesn't open back up on you again. Just sew right across the edge there. Just back and forth a couple times. And then you can go ahead and snip that end, that middle yarn off. So you're going to want to make 3 berries, and then we're going to go ahead and sew them on to our stocking and make a little hanger. To make the hanger for your stocking, I chose to use the light sage color. I'm going to be using my 5.5 millimeter hook and a chain of 25. Once you have your chain of 25, you're just going to slip stitch second chain from hook all the way back and then fasten off. So just make your full chain and just slip stitch into each stitch just like this. Just make slip stitches. And once you get back to the beginning, you go ahead and fasten off. If you want a thicker hanger, you can go ahead and do single crochet, whichever way you prefer for your hanger. I did slip stitches because I didn't really want a fat hanger for my stocking. Now I did, for my stocking, I fastened it on the inside of the stocking right here, right to would be the second round of the stocking. I went ahead and fastened it so basically sewed it in right there. And then with the heel facing to the left so that the seam right here was on the back part of the stocking, I put my holly on and sewn the holly down. So raise this up a little bit more so you can see the stocking. So if you've liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell so you won't miss any of my tutorials. Thanks for watching, and happy crocheting! Bye-bye!